Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and although JD Vance has only had 2 years in the Senate, he delivers an absolute smackdown, proving that he is ready for the big times. This is a big reason why he's the vice presidential nominee now, and what he says is just brilliant. And before we dive in, we are sponsored here on Politibrawl by Colonial Metals Group. If you want to protect your wealth against Biden inflation using gold, silver, and other precious metals, you need to talk to the experts over at Colonial Metals Group.
He decided to instead focus on the terrible scourge of too many white men in the construction industry. And I find that preposterous, both on its own face, but also as a focus from the Secretary of Transportation. So I want to read you a tweet with that backdrop in mind. And I quote, "President Obama is a raggedy black supremacist president, and his cowardly enablers would rather kill everybody than stop killing white people." Do you think a person who said that should be appointed or confirmed to the FCC?
Could you read I didn't quite get that. Could you just reread that, would you mind?
President Obama is a raggedy black supremacist president, and his cowardly enablers would rather kill everybody than stop killing white people. Do you think a person, yes or no, who says that should be appointed to the FCC?
I would need to know more of the context, honestly.
Okay, well, I think
really
clearly a
answer the
person who said that should not be appointed to the FCC.
Okay.
And in fact, you retweeted the exact same thing, only with President Trump instead of President Obama, and the race is reversed. Let me read another tweet, and let me ask you if this is an acceptable thing for an FCC commissioner. "Angry black woman, not a good look, Judge Brown Jackson." Would a person who tweeted that pejoratively be deserving of the position that you're seeking?
I think it has nothing to do with the position that they're seeking, so not necessarily.
So I think that's
I know I tweeted something about Judge Kavanaugh, right?
I think that's preposterous. Come on. You tweeted at Judge Kavanaugh, "Angry white man, not a good look, Judge Kavanaugh." Now, here's why I think that it's relevant. We live in a country that's very diverse. People come from very different backgrounds. And one of the things that preserves what little racial comedy and harmony we have in this country is that our leaders don't use that racial comedy and harmony like a toddler who discovered their daddy's gun. You talk about racial issues in a way that will inflame the very worst things in our country. And I fear that if you're given this position of authority, you will use that authority to continue to inflame and to continue potentially even to censor based on some of these ideas. Now, I've just illustrated a couple of ways that we talk about these issues, or some of our leaders talk about these issues. I hope that I never do. And if I do, I hope my constituents will hold me to account for it. But one of the things that I fear here is that you're being appointed to a position with an incredible amount of control over the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we debate with each other, the way that our politics actually manifests itself in the public debate. And I guess I'd ask you, do you think those comments are a good thing for the American people to hear, given how much power you will have if you get confirmed?
Senator, I made those comments in my role as either a private citizen or a public advocate, and they will have absolutely no bearing on how I would act as an FCC commissioner.
Ms. Sohn, I appreciate that, but they reveal something about how you see the world, how you think about the world, and how you feel about the world. So I understand and respect that you made them in your capacity as a private citizen, but they are reflective of a person who will have a lot of power if the Senate confirms your nomination. And this is why I'm going to oppose your nomination.
Y'all, racism is racism. There is no such thing as reverse racism, okay? It's all racist. This woman had said exactly what J.D. Vance had outlined, she would correctly be called a racist. And if the reverse were flipped, that would also be a racist epitaph. So no, stop using the phrase reverse racism, okay? It's dumb and it deflects from your point. Don't ever let your point be deflected. Because if you throw in that weird word reverse, it makes you think like there's a special category. There should never be a special category. It's all on the same disgusting level and must be treated as such every single time. And that's exactly why J.D. Vance isn't going to vote for her. That was Gigi Sohn, who was looking to work on the FCC as one of its board members, one of its directors. She lost. one of the few Democrat nominees, one of the few Biden nominees who lost because Joe Manchin said, listen, even I can't stand this sort of crap. Y'all, times are rough. Record inflation is still not under control. We have a president who doesn't know what planet he's on. And the Federal Reserve continues to make dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision. You can gamble on Wall Street all you want, but if you want to diversify and protect your wealth, you need to look into my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. These amazing experts understand how to keep your wealth safe and protected from the volatility of our current market. And there's even a great deal for first-time accounts. Free gold and silver-backed IRA accounts, insurance on whatever precious metals you happen to buy for 5 years, up to $7,500 worth of silver, and a nice safe for you to keep all this good stuff in. So go take a look at their website, link in the description below, or call the phone number below so you can talk personally to Paul Sohn, CEO, and his amazing team of experts to protect your wealth today. Now, what does the FCC do? Well, it fosters good interstate commerce over airwaves. It helps with the changing regulations in order to be updated with new technologies. But what it really does is a giant censorship platform. And there's a great Family Guy segment on they do a great song on something called the freaking FCC. And it's one of their better ones. I'm not a big fan of Seth MacFarlane, but I do respect his talent as one of his better songs. So she would have had a spot on one of the most important boards in this country. I think after the Federal Reserve, this one would be incredibly important as well. Because again, their job is very simple: to censor speech. Now, not in saying what you can or can't say on your social media platform, but what television shows can bring you, what you can actually say on the news, what are the standards, are you allowed to curse, are you allowed to drop certain F-bombs, that kind of censorship. And Family Guy at the time was sort of towing the line and was right on the edge, and the FCC was constantly getting complaints about them. This woman, however, has a much deeper problem. She is basically admitting that as a private citizen, she has been a deeply racist person, arguably hating against white people. This woman looks kind of white to me. The last name Sohn, I'm honestly not sure the origins of that. That sounds sort of Korean to me, but she doesn't look Korean. So I don't know what her racial makeup looks like, but she looks white. And so it's odd that she would have these sort of opinions, until you remember that rich white liberals do not understand the consequences of their own rhetoric. They're smart enough to know that rhetoric has consequences. They're smart enough to hear rhetoric that doesn't sound good to them. That's why Trump gets on their nerves so much. He uses rhetoric in a way that just triggers them to their core, and it's really fun to watch. Until you realize that these people don't have much substance. They're two-faced in the way that they think that they're standing up for the freedoms of another person, when what they're really doing is infantilizing people that they think don't deserve to live in their rich, white ivory towers. And that's essentially the problem with the Democrat Party. They live in these echo chambers. If a Democrat says they're from Atlanta, you can look at them and laugh because you know they're either from Sandy Springs or they're in these protected neighborhoods just across the Chattahoochee River. They don't live in Atlanta. They don't live around the old 4th Ward, the 5th Ward. They don't live around Turner Field and deal with GSU. And if you're from Atlanta, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. They're not from the Decatur area or Dunwoody. They live in their own enclaves and are shocked and horrified when they are told that crime rates are out of control in certain areas. Oh, it's not happening in my neighborhood. Well, yeah, because your neighborhood has a completely different standard, aesthetic, and you price all the poor people out. That's what happens under Democrat rule nearly every single time. They price out both the poor and the middle class. The middle class can afford then to go to the suburbs. The poor can't. And so, nearly every single time under Democrat rule, it's the wealthy subsidizing the poor. That's what's happening in California. That's what happens in blue states. That's what is currently happening in Fulton County. Although there's a bigger twist to that, but that's a longer lore and way more niche. And I want to use that example because I'm from that area. I know what I'm talking about. I've worked under the Gold Dome twice. I studied political science. I know what I'm talking about here. And Gigi Sohn knows deep down that she will bring the values of a rich white liberal with no concept of what life is actually like for a black or brown person in a community pretty much 2 miles over, because she doesn't have to drive there. She doesn't have to live there, and the crime doesn't affect her. This is the problem of being in an echo chamber. This is the problem with the rich white liberal mentality. They think they're helping people. They think they're ending racism. All they're doing is perpetuating it. And that's why she lost her nomination. One of the few Biden nominees to lose. So let that sink in, that this is apparently the line. I'm glad that there is one. But I think we need to hold to it a little bit better than that. And J.D. Vance gave a textbook attack. This is exactly how you're supposed to do it, and I'm glad that he's going to have a chance to say in the Senate, not as a member representing Ohio, but as the vice president who cast the tie-breaking vote. Man, I can't wait to see that. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Political Brawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.